Reg offers her a trial period, and honestly, I don't think that's going to end well for anybody. Tiffany is already trying to cover up one huge secret. The last thing she needs is to get deeper into business with Reg. Emmett's and Kiesha's wedding planning provides some lighter moments. Their debate over the guest list felt realistic and reminded me why these two work so well together. Even something as simple as deciding how many people to invite turns into a full discussion. Leela Roshan also makes a welcome appearance as their wedding planner. Shaad continues investigating Nora's murder despite Patience warning him to let it go. Watching him pull on different threads throughout the episode creates a lot of suspense because you know every answer is only going to create more problems. The deeper he digs, the more dangerous things become. One scene I really enjoyed was the conversation between Victor and Shaad. They haven't shared much screen time recently, so it was nice seeing those characters reconnect. It was a simple moment, but it helped ground the episode amid all the secrets and lies. The engagement party serves as the emotional centerpiece of the hour. It's a celebration, but underneath it all everyone seems to be hiding something. The tension is especially noticeable whenever Tiffany, Victor, Emmett, and Kiesha are together. You can tell the truth is getting harder and harder to hide. Even some of the smaller storylines, from Devontae and his friends getting into trouble to the ongoing relationship discussions among several characters, tie back into the episode's larger themes of commitment, honesty, and the consequences of keeping secrets. By the end of the episode, more people have information they shouldn't have, more questions have been raised, and several characters are heading toward confrontations that feel unavoidable. The camera repeatedly reminding viewers where Nuck is buried adds an extra layer of tension because you know the truth can't stay hidden forever. The fallout from Nuck's death also carried over behind the scenes. During our conversation, Cortez Smith reflected on filming his final episodes and revealed just how emotional his departure was for the cast and crew. The whole set cried, Smith revealed. Knowing how close the cast has become over 8 seasons adds another layer to the performances, making the grief and lingering tension surrounding Nuck's death feel even more genuine on screen. After the emotional fallout of the last couple of episodes, Episode 7 shifts the focus from action to consequences. It's an episode built around lies, guilt, and people trying to keep a secret that's becoming harder to contain. While I enjoyed the main story, I have to admit the editing felt a little off this week. The episode jumps from storyline to storyline so often that it never really settles into itself. It was really disjointed, but even with that, the central plot is still strong enough to keep me invested. Tiffany is clearly unraveling after killing Nuck. The opening scene, where she's haunted by memories of what happened, does a good job showing that she's carrying the weight of her decision. It's one thing to convince everyone else you're okay, but it's another thing to convince yourself. Victor continues to be the voice of reason, at least for a little while. When Tiffany suggests framing Bakari for Nuck's murder because everyone already sees him as a killer anyway, Victor asks the question we've all been thinking, are you trying to become the new Alicia? That line says everything about where Tiffany's head is right now. She's making decisions out of fear instead of thinking about the damage she's causing. Meanwhile, Smitty is officially stepping into the leadership role left behind by Nuck, and I actually liked seeing him take charge. He's laying down the rules, putting everyone in their place, and trying to keep the streets from turning into complete chaos. It also looks like Big Mike has become his right-hand man, which should make for an interesting dynamic moving forward. One character who continues to shake things up this season is Reg. Early in the episode, Smitty confronts him about Nuck's disappearance, and Reg doesn't flinch for a second. He makes it clear that if he had killed Nuck, he'd own it, and he warns Smitty to stay off his blocks if he wants to avoid problems. That scene reminded me why Reg is still one of the most intimidating characters on this show. He doesn't need to raise his voice or threaten anyone. His confidence does all the talking. Reg isn't finished there either. Later in the episode, he shows up at Tiffany's house looking to do business, and you can immediately see the tension on Victor's face. Victor knows exactly what kind of problems Reg brings, but Tiffany is desperate enough to consider working with him, especially since the mob wants nothing to do with her anymore. There is a particular kind of dread that settles in when a lie is working a little too well. That is the energy that courses through The Chai Season 8 Episode 6, titled When Truth Thaws, and it is one of the most quietly suffocating hours the show has produced in years. Created by Lena Wyther, The Chi enters its 8th and final season with familiar characters at a strange juncture in their lives, as a series of deaths shakes up the entire town and power vacuums emerge left and right. With the season now at its midpoint, the weight of every unresolved secret is beginning to crack the foundation of the South Side. Episode 6 begins in the immediate aftermath of Nuck'S death, as Tiff and Victor move through the haunting and laborious process of burying the body. As they dig through snow and mud, Tiff fears she will inevitably get caught and killed by Nuck'S men, but Victor promises to be her bodyguard for the foreseeable future. That promise is going to cost him. The episode then jumps a week ahead in time, revealing that things have sort of settled down since. Tiff has stepped fully into Alicia's shoes, volunteering to have Alicia's mansion serve as the venue for Emmett and Kiesha's engagement party, along with a number of embellishments and festive additions. The gesture reads as generous on the surface, but it also keeps all the moving pieces under one roof and under her watch. Kiesha is still curious about Nuck, who has not responded to her calls in a week, but Tiff covers for his absence by suggesting it is normal for him to ditch the city for weeks at a time. It is a convincing deflection, but the clock on that excuse is clearly running down. At Tiff's, Smitty arrives in a particularly bad mood, rather convinced that Tiff killed Nuck, and the fact that she refers to him as her ex-partner does not help her case. Victor and Tiff summon Bakari to the house and confront him for knowing the truth about Rob while still keeping it a secret. As Tiff clues him in on what really happened to Nuck, she makes him an accomplice as payback, asking him to sneak into the dead man's home and make it look like he escaped with all of his stuff. It is a cold move, but it is the kind of cold that keeps people alive in Tiff's world. As their relationship intensifies, Tiff finds herself embracing a riskier lifestyle that could carry serious consequences later in the season. One of the biggest questions coming out of episode 2 is whether Patience can actually prove Victor and Shaad's innocence. The episode makes it clear that Patience believes there are holes in the case, and her determination suggests she may be closer to uncovering the truth than anyone realizes. However, if Victor and Shaad were framed, exposing the people responsible could place Patience in serious danger. The storyline also creates hope for both men at a time when their future appears bleak. While the episode doesn't provide definitive answers, it positions Patience as the person most likely to change the outcome of the case moving forward. The ending of White Russian is all about shifting power. Patience's investigation gives Victor and Shaad their first real reason for optimism, while Reg's actions remind viewers that old enemies remain just as dangerous as ever. At the same time, Nuck continues consolidating power, creating new alliances and opportunities that could reshape the balance of power across the South Side. The episode doesn't end with a shocking death or major twist, but it does something equally important: it establishes the season's central conflicts. Victor and Shaad are fighting for freedom, Emmett is struggling to hold his family together, and Reg's return threatens to drag everyone back into old cycles of violence and revenge. As the final season continues, White Russian makes one thing clear: nobody's future is secure, and every decision now carries higher stakes than ever before. The episode spends more time positioning characters than delivering major payoffs, but it succeeds in building tension for the episodes ahead. Patience's investigation, Reg's increasingly dangerous behavior, and the growing pressure on Emmett provide plenty of compelling material as the CHI continues its final season. While not as explosive as some of the show's best episodes, it effectively sets the stage for bigger developments to come. Right away we see Victor, played by Luke James, locked up while tensions between him and Shaad, Jason Weaver, continue to rise in prison. Their scenes together are intense because both characters feel trapped with no real way out. Meanwhile, Jake is left alone trying to protect Victor's house, but that becomes almost impossible once Reg returns. And speaking of Reg, Barton Fitzpatrick immediately steals every scene he's in. Reg comes back like a storm. He's reckless, dangerous, and completely unbothered by the idea of going back to jail. Whether he's running pills through the city, threatening people, or taking over Victor's house, you can feel the tension rise anytime he appears. His final confrontation with Jake is easily one of the best scenes in the episode. The emotional core of the episode though belongs to Emmett, played by Jacob Latimore. Emmett is still struggling with losing his mother, and seeing Donnell, Rolando Boyce, trying to move forward with life only makes things harder for him. Their late-night conversation about grief and fatherhood was one of the strongest scenes in